All right, I want to quickly go over today's price action because today was a very interesting day and there was a lot that could have gone wrong today if you did not watch out, right? And the main reason for that being is simply the difference in NQ and ES, right? You can see ES here had this big 15-minute bearish zone, which was not on NQ, and the price looked quite different on ES and NQ, right? So let's go over the day. We'll start right here, 9:30, where the day starts. Now, instantly, we took the previous daily high, right? And on the 1 minute, there was this zone right here, which was inverted, right? So one could have taken a trade like this to the downside here, potentially a valid trade, right? For me, not so valid because there was this 3 minute, which at the time was not inverted yet, right? So I did not want to take the risk of taking a trade right here. It worked out, yes. However, was it a perfect trade? No. Now, continuing then with the day, we can see that price started kind of consolidating and just moving within this range for quite a while. And now here is where it becomes super, super important that you have a system in place that you trust, a system and a plan, a trading plan with rules essentially that you trust. Because otherwise, on a day like this, you are going to be confused and you're going to take losses, right? For example, let's say here, this 5 minute zone opened up on NQ as well as on ES. We tapped into it, right? The next move that we would want to see, of course, is down to this low from here. Now, we see this big candle and it's like, at that moment, many people might jump into this trade, taking it right here, simply because they believe, okay, well, it's kind of obvious we're going to go down. However, what happens? You get taken out, right? This is why it is so important that you have these rules in place. For example, I was looking for an inversion on the 1 minute at this point. However, there was no 1 minute zone that could have been inverted. So there was also no trade here for me, which saved me from a potential loss, or at least a break even at minimum. Now we continue and suddenly another 5 minute zone opens up here, right? Now price looks very bullish. We invert this 5 minute zone here, right? This becomes an inversion. You might think, okay, well, now we're going bullish. We're going to come up here. First of all, we are still in a bearish 15-minute zone on ES, right? And since ES and NQ are heavily related, it does not make a lot of sense to go for a buy here. However, there was a setup that could have been clean with this 1 minute zone right here, which got inverted. However, it got inverted so strongly, I did not take a trade here anymore because I did not believe that price necessarily had what it takes here to even reach the 1.1 1-to-1 hour, right? And if we take a look at this, if you have our stop loss down here and we're aiming for the 1-to-1, you would have taken another loss or at least another break even right here, probably been done for the day at that point because you're fed up. And this is why it is so important to have that patience, right? You need to have that patience to sit through all of this, looking for trades, right? Not seeing anything that you are satisfied with that fits all of your criteria, right? Not rushing into anything here. And then when the real opportunity comes, you can take that, right? So what we can see here is we start taking out this high, we take it out again, and we form this 1 minute bullish fair value gap right here. Very important what happens on ES, right? We have heavy SMT at this point, right? On ES, we have built this right here, which is of course a lower point than this high. And on NQ, we have put in a higher point. So very clear SMT here at these highs. Now, is SMT itself enough to take a trade? No, it is not, and it should never be your main reason for taking a trade. So why did I end up taking this sell right here? Quite simply, there was nothing that was holding us here. There was nothing that could have made us go bearish up until this 5-minute zone, which also was already tapped into red, so also not that strong anymore, this zone. But even on the 3-minute, there was this super tiny FEG here, which I disregarded. On the 1-minute, right, there was this FEG here, at which point I was already at break even, because this low right here was my point of moving my stop loss to break even. And I get a lot of people telling me, usually in the comments of Instagram or wherever, that I'm being too aggressive with my stop losses to break even. And I am here to tell you that that is not the case. You need to be aggressive with your stop losses to break even in price action scenarios like this, because otherwise you're going to take a lot of unnecessary losses, because you need to think about, what do I essentially know price is going to do? What am I very, very confident in price doing? In this case, I am super confident that price is going to take this low, right? I don't want to say that I know it, but I am willing to bet a lot that price is going to take out this low. What happens afterwards, I am uncertain, right? Because we do have this 1-minute FEG here, which could have catapulted price to the upside, but it wouldn't have mattered because I would have been at break even anyways, right? So that is how you need to act in scenarios in which price action is, you could say, confusing in a way, right? You just need to be aggressive with your trade management so that in the worst case scenario, you simply take a break even, right? Now, the final confluence for this trade was that at this time, the 15-minute on ES had not yet been broken, right? We can check, this was the 15-minute candle here, and it had not been broken yet. It was respecting this 15-minute zone, which of course gave me enough confidence to take this trade for a simple 1-to-1, right? I did not want to be greedy, because if you're greedy, especially on a day like this, for example, I could have said, okay, I want to target all the way down here, and I would have taken a break even, right? Simple 1-to-1. Take something from the market and then just leave. That is my biggest advice. Don't try to always hit these home runs. Take your piece of the cake and just leave. Let that compound, right? Every day you come into the markets and you're just looking for something you can take, even if that's just a 1-to-1, that's more than enough. After this trade, there was one more trade. I know that one of my students took this. I did not take this myself because I was done for the day after this. However, you can see that price ended up moving to the upside again. Let me take this off right here so you can see it more clearly. We formed this 5-minute zone, which quickly turned into a 5-minute inversion, right? And then from this 5-minute inversion, we had this inverse on the 1-minute for a clean trade right here. You could also just target a simple 1-to-1 or target this high, and of course you would put your stop loss to break even, or at least I would put my stop loss to break even at that high right there, and you just leave it running. And a day like this can absolutely wreck your trading account if you are not careful and if you are not patient. However, if you are patient, you're going to be rewarded for it.